And welcome to the Inside Britball podcast. My name's Andy Taylor, and I'm joined by Stuart and Isaac, as always, as we bring you BUCS breakdown as we start to look back on week 8 of the BUCS season, because we are heading into the Christmas break now, aren't we? Where we get a few weeks off, albeit a couple where we have some fixtures dotted around the place. We will look back on that. We will then see how we think that'll affect the writers' poll, the all-important writers' poll, of course. And then we will look ahead at these 2 fixtures that are happening this weekend and see what we think about them. We'll give you an idea of what's happening with Last Man Standing as well, and we'll give you a heads up of what we're planning to do over the next couple of weeks as well. I'm sure we'll give ourselves a break. I'm sure we deserve a little bit of that. But yeah, we are live on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook, so please send us your comments in, get involved in the discussion. Let us know where we've got wrong and what we're getting right are just as important. So first up, let's get straight into it because we've got plenty to get through. Let's have a little look at the Prem tier as we always do. And as you can see right in front of you, if you're watching, if you're listening, we'll make sure we give you the information as requested online. So Isaac, I'll give you first dibs here. Where do you want to go when talking about the results from week 8?
I'll talk about the game I went to and was commentating on, surprisingly. That Nottingham Gold 13, Durham Saints 38. The scoreline itself is a shock. I think. I don't think if either side won, it wouldn't be labelled as a shock. But the way that Durham did it was just so impressive. Durham this year have kind of taken that approach of we've got a QB with a better arm who can throw over you guys, which we've worked a lot. Coming out of our half time, I think it was 21-7 to the Durham Saints. It was complete dominance in the first half, and then Nottingham went down the field, scored a touchdown, went for a 1-point conversion, and it all just went wrong. The snapper then tried flinging it into the end zone and then got intercepted, and the momentum then just completely, and the life just zapped out of Nottingham, and then Durham just kind of started to run away with it. It was, Nottingham a lot of the day at both games, when we speak about the other game as well, was very ill-disciplined, and it's nothing like we've seen from Nottingham before. Not just in the flags they got, but like the way the defense was playing, if that makes sense. There was a lot of gaps that when you got a QB like Durham has, and he can just run around in the backfield and chuck the ball 40 yards without even trying. He's a massive danger, and he's one thing that Nottingham, after the Christmas break, definitely need to look at.
Yeah, and Nathan in the chat on Instagram has said with Notts Gold losing, who is number 1 in the rankings, Notts Gold or Bullets, something that we'll get to in a little second. We'll give you our thoughts for sure, because we definitely got into that conversation in our group chat, didn't we, at the weekend? So, Stuart, before we move on from there, great job, Isaac. Your debut of commentating there, I'm sure it was an experience. Not just one game, 2 games, wasn't it? Yeah. We'll talk about the second game there, but congrats. How was that? How was commentating for the first time?
It was good. It was interesting. We had set up how Nottingham do it, how it's like in a completely different area of the sports complex. But no, it was great to see so many people. To be fair, they're like having a chat with all the coaches there and catching up with like Tonya, for example. Yeah, it was really good, like just to be there, really.
Yeah, class. It's a strange setup, but it's at least a setup, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
We had I think we had basketball going on in front of us when we were trying to watch the screen.
We had trampolining, table tennis, badminton, and netball at the same time as the American
touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was really weird because also my brother Oscar, who plays for Notts, were like next to me doing the cameras at the same time. So
really?
As Simon said, it was the most northern commentary team he's ever had in his life. So.
Brilliant. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but great experience and congrats on doing that, because that's an experience for anyone who's ever done it. So let's move on from there then, Stuart. And any comments on the Gold game, or do you want to pick out anything else?
Nope, I'll let Isaac have his words of wisdom on that one. I didn't catch up with either of those two, to be fair. We made a bit of a boo-boo and released the incorrect score for the Newcastle NTU game. We we've got a really good we've got a really good relationship with Depth Chart Sports. I spent my Friday night watching the Bristol game with Tebs from there as well, sort of working on that relationship, and it's fantastic. And yeah, they had got a score and they shared it with us, and we were like, okay, type that in, bish bash bosh. We released it, and I can't remember whether it was on theirs or our Instagram. Somebody commented. And they just sent back, yeah, just don't trust us with results anymore. So I think they were they'd obviously had a long weekend like us, out on Friday night. I believe they were out on the ground on Sunday as well. They were at Oxford, Birmingham, weren't they? So yeah, they'd obviously had a long weekend. So rest up, guys. We all get a few weeks off. I was laughing and joking with Tebs about this break. So yeah, let's rest up and recover. NTU beat Newcastle 25-0. So that kind of sits them atop of the Prem North. And proves they've got a bit of an offense. I know Isaac is the one-man support group for their QB, but they've actually put some points up this week, so they're not lingering around that sort of 8 or 14 or 6-point mark that they've done most of the year. They've actually got to 25 points, which is fantastic. Warwick, on the other hand, have not sort of put lots of points on the board, but by all accounts, the weather, and also down in Exeter as well, the weather was pretty rough over the weekend. So Warwick only just beat Leeds 8-0. And the Leeds defence, Isaac, you mentioned a few weeks ago, was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was just their offence that they were struggling to move. So yeah, 8-0. And from my experience of Warwick as well, that score kind of holds up in that one. So Warwick have the 2 spot in the Prem North at the moment with that win. And then SGS just squeaked past Exeter after their big drubbing of Portsmouth a week or two ago. Again, in poor conditions. Nathan, if you're still in the chat, I think you officiated that game, didn't you? It was a rather soggy and damp affair, and their 3G field in Exeter is kind of off the back of the sports complex. It's quite windy, and I know that Storm Brown or Bram or whatever it was around this weekend, wasn't it? So yeah, that probably had an effect on the football that was played there. But Exeter 7-14 loses to SGS Pride, puts them perilously close at the bottom of that Prem South, in contention for relegation, doesn't it?
Yeah, so Leeds are now 1 game away, aren't they, from relegation if they're not careful, because I think one of their games coming up is against Newcastle. So they've got Warwick again, haven't they, coming up after the Christmas break, and then they travel to NTU. So it's a tough time for Leeds. I think that they're not mathematically out of it, but with that two game gap is a precarious one at this point, isn't it, for Leeds? So they need to find an offense and quick. To your point, only 7.5 points a game is tough, isn't it?
Yeah. When I went to go watch them, it will kind of like,
yeah,
if the conditions are in the summer and it's dry and the ability to throw the balls there, they look decent. But as soon as you ask them to run or have any sort of ground game, they don't have it. And you look at Warwick on the other hand of that, where pretty much all they seem to do is run. I know they haven't scored many, but it's effective, isn't it? He scored more points than the other team, and it's not hard when the other team's scoring 0. And then I've got one more question. The NTU Newcastle game. Have you ever seen a Raider in the end zone?
Jesus, you can't get involved with that meme.
I love it. I don't understand it, but
I don't understand it either. Anybody listening, let us know.
No.
But
No.
that was full on trolling, wasn't it?
There was one. There was trolling from the Durham one as well, wasn't there? What were their comments?
I can't remember.
If only they know, I think, was it, or something like that?
Right. So it's a thing. Right. Okay.
Yeah. If only they know is kind of. Yeah. It's always fun in games, isn't it, when teams have this sort of banter and it's like, okay, let's just post it and see if people understand it. Bit like the 6-7. Nobody really knows it, but everybody does it anyway.
Quick. I hate every time I hate that every time my boy does it, so I'm moving on quickly. So I wanted to quickly ask you guys. Obviously, there's some surprisingly closer results than normal. Does it change your opinion? So I'm talking about UE only beating Leeds Beckett by 36 points, when in the last 4 other meetings it might have been triple that. You've then got obviously Warwick only just beating Leeds, a Warwick team that only 2 weeks ago the writers put them in the top 5, right? And then SGS only beaten Exeter by a touchdown. Does it change your opinion, or are you putting that down to weather, or does it, or you're just going to go, nah, chalk that one up and see where we go?
Not so much for UWE. I think no matter what, UWE were going to win that game. I don't think it matters what squad they use, because obviously they've got 2 squads, but different squads, and it's all strange. But they've got the depth in numbers, so they can use whatever players they want, and they can still do really well. And no matter what the scoreline is, they've still got the talent, back in Bristol that can do the job. But more for the SGS one, I think it does. I think Exeter did look decent. You look at that Brunel game, where I think they kept it close until the end of the third quarter, fourth quarter kind of situation. So that for me does change it, because you look at SGS and they should be blowing teams like that out of the water, like they have been doing for ages. But no, I don't think Warwick has ever been known to score a ton of points after. So I don't think that's really a worry as to right now as to why they're not scoring so many.
Probably just more worried about NTU and their ability to keep on going, right? But Stuart, what about yourself?
No, I think for me a win's a win. At the end of the season, it just says you went 7-1 or 8-1 or 9-1. It doesn't tell you how you won those games. You tend to not have points difference in BUCS either. It's not really reported on or sort of posted. So no, win's a win. We don't know really what the weather forecast and performance was like. It might have been scrappy, but sometimes a scrappy win is just as important as your 50-60-0 blowouts, aren't they? So no, chalk one win up in the points column, move on, get your Christmas break done, go home.
Rest up. Let's have a little look at Tier 1 then. We've obviously got a very busy schedule to go over there. I don't need to say it anymore. I'm not going to mention it, but it didn't happen again. So Stuart, first dibs for Tier 1 results. Where would you like to focus in on first?
I'll talk about where I went on Friday night. The drive down the M5 was hellish. It was extremely wet. I got out the car at Bristol, put my waterproof jacket on, and then proceeded to sweat most of the night because it went cold, but it was dry. The game was fantastic in between the 2 15-yard lines, and then both defenses really stepped up in sort of outside or in that sort of shallow red zone, sort of inside maybe the gold zone, some coaches call it as well. But there was a couple of absolute sort of standouts. Bristol's Swiss Army knife, number 0. Bath just couldn't quite get a grasp of their sort of reverse or misdirection play that they ran with him. And every time he kind of just sort of cut and went vertical straight up the middle. I haven't seen any stats from them, but he probably got about 150 odd yards throughout the game. He was sort of their go-to. And then Bath Killer Bees in the second half, they just kept feeding number 96. And I think I've seen stats, and I think he got 120 or 150 yards as well, and a touchdown to boot. So that game was really close. The number of turnovers, I think I made a joke on our stories, didn't I, that there was more turnovers than a Bristol bakery. There must have been easily 5 in each half. Interceptions, fumbles, whatever. Which is probably why the score stayed so low, because they drove the field and then ended up punting or turning the ball over. But yeah, Bristol took care of business, 12-7. And if that result goes the same way, it may well rule Bournemouth out of playoff contention. No, the other way. So if Bath beat Bristol, it kind of knocks Bournemouth out of playoff contention as well. So it'd be interesting to see what the return of that is after Christmas. And yeah, Birmingham got another beating. Is another sore subject from an ex-Birmingham coach, but yeah, they're kind of going to stick at this level with the Pirates, looking like they're going to go down after their loss to Hertfordshire 28-6. It looks like UEA are going to go down from the Southern, and Birmingham will survive to fight another year in that in Tier 1.
Yeah, they've certainly got it's it's a two-horse race now, isn't it? Really, certainly when you're considering head-to-head in that southern division, 2 teams in the Hertfordshire or against in Oxford Brookes who are going to be fighting that out for who's going to be finishing top and second, and then Bristol are now only 1 point away from securing playoff football at the very least, and you would probably suspect with the way their results are going, they'll be securing top because obviously Bournemouth with their points deduction can only score so many, and so they can only get 9 points. So with another win for Bristol, they'll secure that bump, which will be very mightily impressive and beneficial for them going into the playoffs. Isaac, what about you? Oh, go on.
They might get some love on the writers' poll then as well if they qualify for playoffs. They're kind of like that in between team where they've got 2 losses, but yet they still might make the playoffs because of the Bournemouth situation. So yeah, they might start getting some love on the writers' poll once they qualified.
Right. Yeah, fair dues. Isaac, what about you?
I got that Midlands and Yorkshire one first. The Derby Sheffield games, they were 6-6 in the end, and it kind of gives Derby a bit of hope, doesn't it, to stay up? Obviously, it's the Midlands and Yorkshire and Northern where 3 teams go down from 2 divisions, and it's all a bit of like a weird mix. So potentially it's Leicester who also lost on Sunday, but Derby getting that 1 point kind of gives them that little bit extra hope because you look at like Liverpool, who they're going up against basically from another division to try and stay up. They're beating Edge Hill, so hopefully now Derby can start turning these draws into wins, and when they face Leicester, again they can get another win and hopefully stay in the division. But then the other game I went to Nottingham Green against Leicester, 36-6 to the Green. It was very strange. Leicester didn't look like a tier 1 team. I think that's like the nicest way to say it. In the second half especially, they started driving down the field a lot more, but I think it was when the Greens put their second string guys in. On both Green and Gold, there's been a lot of injuries, so I think on the O-line especially, concussions and injuries have ruled people out until after Christmas. But Leicester could never really get anything going until they were 4 scores down and there was nothing really to play for anymore. I said it quite a lot in commentary where the QB would kind of often almost was only going to pass to one guy as if he was still in like a training session, if that makes sense. As if like he was surveying the field but only ever looking at one person and going there constantly. It's kind of what hurt him in a way. There were turnovers on both sides, which changed the game. But Leicester's 6 points came from a pick six. It was really well managed pick six as well, like a tip drill, and he took it back 50 plus yards. Nottingham Green keep rolling. So yeah,
Do Green
Nottingham look like a class of that division.
Do they look like a Prem team?
At times they do, but not all the time. I think the playbook that they've run definitely is a Prem level playbook. It's a Prem national playbook. It's the gold one. So yeah. But I think that the way that they've run it, a lot of their best players do end up having to get promoted because of what they can offer to the golds. On special teams or whatever. I think sometimes that does hurt the Greens. But no, I think if they can make it down the stretch and they can make it into the playoffs and eligibility, and there's players who are still eligible and all sorts who can play for both teams, then anything can really happen, can't it? But at the minute, they have moments of class, but it's not permanent. It's just 1 or 2 players where they look incredible. It's not all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Edinburgh Napier now 5-0, along with Green and Lancashire. Really impressive stuff from there. And obviously, pre-season, we thought Stirling might have been their nearest challengers. Well, they've taken that head-to-head now, haven't they? So, you feel as if it's now Edinburgh Napier's to lose, and they'll be pushing for those seedings now, aren't they? Obviously, looking at what is likely to be points being the same, so then it's going to be average points against, isn't it? And at the moment they're 0.8 again better off than Green, and I think if Lancashire keep not conceding, they'll tie up that number 1 seed, won't they? Over time. But that's
it's always an issue having it with that Scottish division because we never really know what because there's no new blood in. There's no. Do you know what I mean? There's never that much change that we never really know how good Edinburgh and AP are. Or are they just so much better than everybody else, and no one else can really stand a chance? But and then when they come down into the playoffs and they start playing other teams, then we can start seeing how we are. And you look at Stirling last year, when Stirling took on it was UCLan and beat them. I think UCLan were playing away maybe that day, and and still put up a good fight against them and showed what they're about. But no, I think it's always the issue that we're always going to have with the Scottish tiers in BUCS and in adult ball, that because there's no new circulation of teams. It's not like the Midlands where like they got two new teams in this year, so it's completely different. I think unless Edinburgh and Napier get promoted this year, I think we're going to see a lot of the same in the Scottish for a long time.
Well, I mean, there's obviously a long way to go, but if the season ended today, which is a series will bring you over the Christmas break, I think they might end up getting Sheffield Hallam if it ended today.
Ooh.
Which
it's
is just it's a tough one, but it's an interesting one nonetheless, isn't it? I mean, Sheffield Hallam has still got 5 games to play, but the caliber that they'll come up against, it'll certainly be a good test for them, won't it?
And I think that's where Sheffield Hallam and then like Nottingham Green do end up doing better in the playoffs because they're playing teams. Is that in it? It's like, is it iron sharpens iron? And it's that thing of you're playing teams who are going to make you better. And I think a lot of the time that's it really. Where I know it don't look like this week when Nottingham played Leicester, but they've had a close game so far this year. And I think when they play Hallam in a return fixture after Christmas, you'll see that a lot closer because they've had time. Do you know what I mean? Hallam, it's not their first game; they've had time to go against it. So yeah, definitely, I think. But yeah, I think it's going to be a shock to the system to both Edinburgh, Napier, and Lancashire when they go into the playoffs and have to play some of them Midlands teams.
KCL, the only undefeated team in the south as well, which is obviously mightily impressive for them. They're now 3-0-1 because they tied against Kent. They're now doing really well when it comes to having this game up on Brighton, and obviously we've got interesting end to the season there. And then just to give a shout out to Kingston, who have pulled it out the bag. We'll see how the season finishes for them. There's 3 games to go. Could UCL grab a point from somewhere or 2? But at the moment, Kingston have the head-to-head on points, aggregate points, and they'll be the one staying in Tier 1 next year, not UCL, which is just fascinating to see how that can change in a heartbeat, because that's flipped within 1 week, hasn't it? 21-16 to UCL last week, and then 12-0 to Kingston the week after, and then Kingston take it. Which who'd have thought?
What a difference home field advantage makes.
I know.
Kingston's ground's not an easy one to go and play.
Right. Well, I mean, UCL didn't score a point, did they? And that's what's going to be potentially their demise. But just looking at their future fixtures, Kingston have got KCL and Kent coming up next.
That's some tough games.
Yeah.
It's not nice to them, is it?
No. UCL have then got Kent and away to King's College. And then they both travel to King's College. That's Kingston finished, and then UCL finish with an away trip to Brighton. That's not an easy finish. Really tough.
I think you can see it ending how it is now, can't you? You look at it and you think, where can one of them teams get a win from? And you'd love to have a shock, but it doesn't seem likely, does it?
Yeah, it feels that way. Let's have a little look at Tier 2 then. We had all game. Oh no, we didn't get Lincoln DMU, which we have a difference on our spreadsheet. But anyway, we didn't get the Lincoln game. But what stood out to you, Isaac, across this slate of results?
I mean, there's 2. We finally got a win in the Northeastern, which is great, and it's not a 12-12 draw or waterlogged pitch or postponement or something. Sunderland beating YSJ 44-0, and they kind of give like a little match report on their results graphic, which is quite cool. And it just looks like total dominance across the field. And they started first play with a safety. And not one of them safeties where it's a snap over the head. It was a proper, tackle in the end zone.
Yeah,
exactly. I think they said something like they had 2 pick sixes. Yeah, I think the recruitment they did of some scholars, I think we'll call them, has helped them. But also the fact that they've played 3 games now. I think it's their 3rd game or 2nd game. If they haven't already had one or 2 cancelled, I can't remember. Has helped them. And YSJ playing so late into the season, week 8, and they're 1 and done before Christmas. It's not helpful for York St John, but definitely something that they can look back on and see where they can improve. And the other one's LJMU, week 1, coming into the season. I think they couldn't have picked a better opponent to go against for week 1 as to ease them into the season. But messaging one of their players, they said that their defense is on fire and that their offense is helping them out, which is always great. And hopefully they can push on and get back into Div 1. Not Tier 1, sorry.
I know a lot of the defensive coaches personally, John Moores, and fantastic defensive coaches. If they get given a 3-month run up to the first game of the season, they'll have you right. And that's what LJMU have been afforded, isn't it? That if students are on site at the beginning of September and your first game's the beginning of December, you're going to be all right on defense, and that donut will help. It will probably be I wouldn't be surprised if that's got a lot to do with it.
It's been kind of a shock, though, hasn't it? That's why YSJ couldn't do the same. They've had the same amount of time as LJMU have. With I don't know the coaches at LJMU, but I know the ones at YSJ, the new ones. You'd have thought that it kind of be the same, but I think that's just testament to how well Sunderland are playing this year, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you called it, didn't you? You called that if it's going to be Sunderland's division to kind of look at, and they couldn't get over the hump in their first game against York. But maybe that changes now that they've got up and running, and obviously that division only plays like 4 or 5 games each, isn't it? So there's not a whole lot of games to play. Stuart, where do you want to go?
I'll just quickly address a comment from Instagram asking what we thought of the OBU Birmingham Lions game. I think I said
you quickly breezed over that, didn't you?
I think I said it short and sweet that Birmingham struggled. Oxford did really well. All the stories that I saw from Depth Chart Sports were a lot of run plays and running backs pretty much just trucking over Birmingham defenders. There was a few good tackles, to be fair. But yeah, they had a really strong run game. So fair play to OBU. They've come into Tier 1 and done a really good job this season. So that's pretty much what I said, just a little bit elongated. What am I going to say about Tier 2? Bath Spa. Hello. Not quite sure where your win came from, but fair play to you. I was so surprised I reached out to them and asked them when the last time that they won was. And it was the 28th of January, 24. So
wow,
about 16 months or so ago.
Well, nearly 2 years.
Nearly 2 years.
I was particularly worried because I thought the last time they had won was when I was a coach at Worcester Royals, but it wasn't. So we're all good. But ironically, it was a game against the Worcester Royals and they won 14-2. So 16-2, 18-2, 18-2. I need better glasses, obviously. 18-2 is an improvement on that result. So fair play to you guys. Let's see what you can do after Christmas in the run-up. I'm not saying you're going to get promoted. I'm not saying you're going to get playoff football. But can we get a 2 in that win column rather than just a 1? And I'm sure you guys will be celebrating accordingly, probably tonight because Wednesday tends to be sports nights. So yeah, hopefully you can have a beer or another beverage if you're teetotal and enjoy that this evening. Reading Knights took care of business again. They won 14-0. Again, another scrappy game, another close, tight affair. Again, I know their head coach, Brian, really good, sound football guy. I'm sure he's built a solid staff around him, and the team look like they're delivering well on the field. And then in the southeast, Quimble. I haven't seen many stats from you this week. I've also not seen you in the chat at the moment. Let me just quickly check, see if you've posted anything up. I don't think you have. No, can't see anything. But yeah, see what happens. And Greenwich squeaked past the Essex Blades. Hi, Simon. Now Hall of Fame at University of Nottingham American football team. So congratulations to you as well. But yeah, Greenwich Mariners taking care of business against the Essex Blades, who are still searching for their elusive victory of the season. Let's see what they can do after Christmas and whether they can get a 1 win in the column and we don't end up with teams that have 0 wins all season. Although we might still end up with 1 in the Prem National.
Yeah, 100%. I'd be more worried about you guys with that comment that it's former. They obviously don't want you back.
Exactly. Yeah, when he said he wants us back at his time, I'm not so
former.
sure he wants us back.
Never mind.
Yeah. I'm sure you've done it before anyway, haven't you, Andy? So when he says Andy next,
I did the regionals. I did the Midlands.
okay.
I did the team Midlands, and Simon wasn't there. It was with coach. God, I've forgotten his name now.
Endicott.
I know who you.
Yeah,
Endicott.
Yes, Endicott. Yeah. So yeah,
that's the technicality he's got us on. Then is it? Fine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, anytime. Just need the invite, Simon. You just too busy inviting those
anymore. It's all right.
It was him that said former, not me.
I know when I'm not wanted.
I also hope that. Nice.
I also hope that 1938 isn't his birth year because he looks very good for that. If it is,
very good. But it's to your point though, Stuart. Reading now 3-0. That bounce back is happening, isn't it, before our eyes? So good on them. Obviously got some challenges coming up. Just looking further ahead. They've now got a real big break to Surrey, and then they finish off with a trip to Sussex. So that top 3 matchups for them to finish off that season. Essex haven't bounced back in the other division there, have they either? So it's turning out to be challenging for them. But we've got a serious battle in the southeast, haven't we? Which is going to be mightily juicy, with the 3-0 Imperial and the 3-1 Quimble. 3-0 Imperial maybe should be Isaac's number 25, but I keep saying it to him, and one day it might happen. Oh, did you put Sunderland in there?
Sunderland,
just for
because you know where it is.
Just for the respect of what they've done.
It's only because you know where it is. You can go to a map and go, there it is.
I've been at Sunderland. Yeah.
Awesome. Right. Well, let's have a little look at this writer's poll then, because as always, we like to break it down as to what we saw before this week, but then also kind of use it as a talking point as to see what we think might happen to the writer's poll this week. I haven't done mine yet. I haven't had chance to do it, so I have it open. I have my ideas. No, I haven't actually done it. Normally, I just haven't submitted it. It's there ready, but I have no idea what I'm going to do because I haven't looked at it yet. But let's have a little look.
25.
I might put Imperial as 25 just because they deserve it. Let's have a little look then at the top 5. So absolutely zero movement in the top 5 before this weekend. Let's go back to Nathan's question earlier on Instagram. I know what your 2 opinion is, but share. Isaac, maybe if you want first dibs here. We have Nottingham who can beat Uwe who can beat Durham who can beat Nottingham. Who's top?
This is what the National's all about. I said this in commentary the other day, and this is why the National was made, so we can see this competition between the 3 best sides in the country. For me, now, after the way that Nottingham lost, it's that thing, isn't it? It's like good losses, bad losses. Uwe only lost by a point. 2 points. It wasn't a large margin. Durham lost to I think it was a 10-point difference to Uwe. So the way I kind of have it at the minute is Uwe gone back up to 1, Durham 2, and Nottingham 3. Just because it's that thing of good and bad losses and who's done what. But yeah, just the way that Nottingham lost, and they just had no answers for Durham on Saturday. I mean, it was pretty much just Durham dominance. The only reason why they're not top is because of their loss to Uwe, and the points different there.
I suppose the one way you can put this is this a power ranking or is this a ranking based on the field, right? Because it can be both, but it depends if you are in either or both camps. Because you could absolutely argue that Uwe are the best powered, maybe. You could argue that you could argue for any of them, really. Yeah. But if bearing in mind that Uwe have played 6, Nottingham have played 5, and Durham have played 4. So all things equal, if they had played the same and had the same record, then Durham would be top. because they would win on the head-to-head in those 3 matchups. It won't end up that way. I'm sure it won't. I'm sure it'll all make its way out in the wash because they've all got to play each other again. And I can't see it going 2-2 between all of them, but you never know. But if it did tie it up, it would be Durham on top there in the tiebreaker when you take into account average points against in those common opponents. Stuart, what about you?
Isaac, do you want to finish off?
No, go on. I'm finished. I was going to say something then. Forgot what I was going to say.
Fair enough. Too many concussions. That's what that is. Two separate trains. Oh, nice. 2 separate trains of thought for me. We've got as it currently stands, which would be Bullets on top, then Gold, then Durham, based on the BUCS points with the wins. That's how it currently stands right now. That is fact. Fiction is where our mindset then comes into it, and I'm similar train of thought to you guys. I think based on this weekend's results and the performance that Isaac has discussed, I think Durham go above Gold, but then I also think UE go above both of them because they are going to bounce back. I can't see them taking another loss to either of these teams. So yeah, fair.
I can see them losing to Durham in that return
in the reverse.
In the reverse fixture, maybe.
The one thing that I did Durham in that game was one, the weather. It was honking weather for the kind of offense that they play. They didn't run. I think in commentary we said it. I think they run once. The only run I can remember. Maybe just not even a handful of times. So when your offense isn't based to that, it kind of hurts a lot, doesn't it? And then also the travel. 7 hours, if not more. When you've got to do that on the way back up, it's going to be a problem for him. I think that with how strong that Durham have looked, I think they could definitely cause an issue for UA on the return leg.
It is
Nathan saying Bullets 1, Saints 2, Gold 3. So there's
great minds.
Yeah, it's one way. I think you can absolutely. It depends how much you're dinging Gold for the 25-point loss, and that is a significant loss, isn't it? At home as well. And I think that's okay. Right. Well, you were there. You were watching it.
There were a play just before halftime that got ruled out for having a legal man downfield, and there were a touchdown. It could have been a lot more. So yeah, it got into like into the fourth quarter, and both sides just kind of looked like they didn't want, like, no injuries. Let's just go away. We're all healthy after Christmas, kind of thing. Whereas if that's in February and it's on seedings, I think that Durham keep pushing on and keep going and get more points.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's very interesting conversation nonetheless. But do you expect SGS Pride to be affected by their result this weekend? Their 1 touchdown win over Exeter?
Yeah.
You're nodding, yeah. Okay.
Put Ian Atkinson in that top 5. Put him in there.
I see where you're going here. You are part of the Ian Atkinson fan club. That's what it is, isn't it?
I'm gonna get a T-shirt for Christmas with his face on. But no, I think what we've seen so far of NTU, the one team that the lost first game of the season and then have won out since. SGS have lost to Brunel, I believe. If I'm right, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But no, like, they're not convincing, are they? They're not. There's been a couple of games where it's been convincing. You look at that Portsmouth one, you can say, "Oh, that was a convincing one." But I don't know. NTU for me, just different gravy.
Yeah, their defense is convincing, right? SGS have only conceded 30 points all season in their 5 games. It's just under a touchdown a game, and 20 of them came against Brunel. So they've only conceded less than 2 touchdowns in the other 4 games. So that is SGS football, isn't it? It's what I just sound defense, and then the offense picks up steam.
They haven't been dinged all season for results not too dissimilar to this, so I can't see them being dinged for this one. I think they'll probably stay in the top 5 alongside Brunel. And then, as I said in our group chat, I think 5 to 15 is where we will see quite a bit of movement this week.
Yeah, tricky.
My thing is, next year, if Brunel, let's say Brunel win it and they're not playing playoff game, if it happens this year, as we didn't know, it didn't happen last year, could Brunel go and cement themselves above a Loughborough or Leeds Beckett? And I think at the minute they can. I think especially with the coaches they've got, I think they're going to do
if
as
they
well
win
as.
it, they will do, won't they?
Yeah, 100%. I think that, I think that you look at like an SGS, and I don't know if they would do as much. And NTU's the same. I don't think they would compared to like a. They wouldn't do as well as a Brunel would do. But I definitely think that if Brunel go up, and it looks like they are going to do, it's going to be an even more competitive national tier, isn't it? It's going to be in a top three. Potential there's a top 3.5, if not 4.
Yeah, they'll have to keep everyone together. I think we've talked about how important this Christmas break is to keep everybody interested and together, isn't it? And getting them ready. They've got that challenge now, haven't they? Let's have a little look at the rest of the top 10 as we do, and then we'll get into the best of the rest. So NTU, your NTU, I'll be calling them from now on, went up one spot to 6. Raiders, nobody's sleeping on them now. They went up to 7. Then we had Warwick Wolves holding at 8. Northumbria jumped up 2 to 9, and Cardiff rounded out the top 10 by dropping 3, effectively being overtaken by Newcastle and Northumbria, but being swapped with Warwick, obviously. Any surprise? Well, I suppose the surprises don't really matter now, do they? I ask that every week, but it probably doesn't matter at this point. But do you expect any major changes or shuffling of those cards following this week's games? You've already mentioned NTU possibly overtaking SGS Pride. I can see that for sure. But what about Warwick? What about Newcastle? And I suppose Cardiff had a day off, didn't they? So what do you think?
I think that this next week, I think we could see a lot more tier 1 sides overtaking the Prem North and South teams. You looked at Nottingham Green's carried on their great run. Edinburgh Napier's done the same. Newcastle have lost. Newcastle blow hot and cold. It's really weird, isn't it? Some games they can look good, and in some games it's like you did on Saturday and lost by 25 points. But no, I could see Warwick going back up to 7, just slightly behind NTU, just because of where they are. I could see Newcastle and Northumbria kind of taking a hit. If I'm honest, I don't know what Northumbria have done to really earn that 9th spot. They're the same as Newcastle, aren't they?
Yeah, but this was this was probably on the back of Cardiff's loss, isn't it? They've probably gone up on the basis of that, and probably on the basis of Loughborough now at this point being 1-4, 1-5 at this point. So probably just by disassociation.
But no, definitely, I could see some of them tier 1 sides breaking into the top 10. If it's not this week coming, it's definitely going to be after Christmas when we get a true idea of what Newcastle are, true idea of what Northumbria are, and really start to see what's kind of happening in that north and south.
The one thing that certainly we don't get here Inside Bristol is a lot of feedback based on this, because we're doing it based on our opinion, obviously. But it'd be good to get feedback on this as well, and be kind. But how wrong is this? How right is this? We're calling these guys the position that they are based on their results, and maybe some power rankings and maybe some fudging of the numbers when you're Isaac Alcorn. But
I got a lot of thank you for mine. I got a lot of thank yous for mine on Sunday. I got told, "Well done, you've been waving the green flag," and I went, "Yeah, because you haven't lost a game yet, so it's kind of hard not to wave a green flag, isn't it?"
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of Nottingham Green, they appeared into the top 15 this week. So we had Loughborough Students drop down 2 to 11. We had Edinburgh Napier, probably through the shuffling of the pack with Newcastle, dropped down by 1 to 12. Lancs went up 1 to 13. Green 1 to 14, and Sheffield Hallam sprung up the leaderboard to 15th as well. I feel as if Green might go up a little bit further. I don't think we can take them too far up without taking Lancs with them. My feeling is, I don't know what you guys feel with that, because and potentially Napier. albeit I take your point that what you've said are they just a byproduct of the division that they're in?
Yeah.
Lancs, I think, are coming up against at least two good sides. Well, one good to playoff good in their division, and Green against potentially the same as well. So maybe that's why I might not put them in that same bracket, but maybe I'm wrong there. What do you guys think?
Go on, Stuart.
I was going to say, I've got a bit quiet because I'm trying to find the feedback that we got from this that I posted up at the weekend, but I can't seem to find where Instagram tells me, especially on my laptop. It's easy on my phone, but I'm trying to do it on my laptop. But yeah, I think we see those 0 loss teams in tier 1 creeping up this, especially over the Christmas break, where people sort of sit back and analyze this a little bit more. I think we see them creeping. So I think we see the likes of Green, as Isaac was saying, Rams, Napier, climbing above the likes of Cardiff, Northumbria, Warwick, maybe even Newcastle. I think that will change quite a bit with the results from this weekend. I think Loughborough will be in there. I don't think they will move up or down too much with their sort of Prem national status by association. But I think the cluster of 4 teams above and below them might be interchangeable this week. And that's why I said sort of 6 to 15 is pretty tough this week, I think.
I've got a theory that there's a number of the writers out there who have some sort of spreadsheet that ranks them based on points. Because if you didn't do it on points, Bournemouth should be in this top 15.
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough to do that.
Well, I don't do that. Mine is just a list of names, and I try and bracket them. But I think Bournemouth should be in there. I know they appear on the next graphic quite quickly, but I know that they've only got 5 points, but they are stonking tier 1 at the moment.
100%, and also you can make a point for KCL as well, unbeaten in their division still, not lost. But I think, I think like we've said, that after Christmas we will start seeing Northumbria, Newcastle, Cardiff, them sort of sides where they're going to beat the ones who are below them, but not really challenge the top. I think they're going to drop out of the top 15, and you're going to start to see Bournemouth back up there. Hallam being in the 15 is quite a surprise to me after their heavy loss at the start of the season. They've looked good, but they've looked good against teams they should be beating, if you know what I mean. I think after Christmas we're going to get a lot of a more clear picture of who the best teams are, and it's not going to just be based on national and Prem bias. It's going to be based on what your results actually are.
Mm-hmm. Interesting comments here from a couple on Instagram, Mike in particular, and Sam agreeing with him about Loughborough being 11 is mental. Presumably, you mean that they should be higher because they think the bottom of the national is a big difference between that and the top of the regional Prem, which I think is interesting.
From what we've seen, they haven't been anywhere near the likes of the top 3, have they really? And when they have played Leeds Beckett, who you'd argue they should be putting a lot of points on, the conditions were bad, yes, but they only put 9 points on them against a side that everyone else is putting 40 plus points on. I mean, that's why a lot of people, when we're picking of where people are going to go, that plays a factor into it, because you see where Leeds Beckett have dropped to in the last few weeks. You can't then say Loughborough deserves to be back in that top, that 6, 7, 8 kind of place because of what's happened.
Yeah, and I get it. I totally understand, and I think that's the exercise that certainly us 3 and a few others across the country have to go through week in, week out, which is trying to rank them based on what we think where they live, and putting a 1 and 4 team that only just beat Leeds Beckett. I think that's the difficulty here when you're trying to compare them theoretically against the top of the regional Prem, such as Brunel, who are now sitting 5-0, SGS, who are 4-1. So, I get it. I understand. And we won't know until one of them does go up. I mean, that hasn't happened now, has it, for a couple of seasons? So, difficult. Stuart, you want to come in?
hopefully my Wi-Fi will let me come in. I'm on the other side of the coin to you two on this one. I've had Loughborough a lot higher than 11. Looking back across all of mine, no lower than 6th across all of my weeks, and I think that is based on knowledge of Loughborough as a team. I've coached against them. I know a few of the coaches. I sort of try and watch little bits here and there. Their social media is pretty good actually at keeping it updated. And the points that they concede is potentially lower here or there. I know their home game against Bullets, they were pretty competitive in the first couple of quarters. They did well against Gold as well for 1 or even 2-3 quarters perhaps. So I think for me, their defense probably holds SGS to 0 points, probably shuts out NTU, probably shuts out Warwick as well. And I think as long as their offense just scores 1 or 2 touchdowns, even 1 a quarter, I still think they're stronger than most of those teams at the top of the Prem North. Prem South as well, probably better than most of the teams towards the bottom. I think it is just Brunel that sticks out like a sore thumb this year as a standalone team over those 10 that I've kind of put above Loughborough so far. So while you two get lynched in the comments, hopefully I'll get a thumbs up or a pat on the back to say, one of you knows some sense. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. If the playoff game happens between Brunel and Beckett, and we get Brunel in the Prem next year, it'll be interesting to see that Brunel versus Loughborough game. All the hypotheticals.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's why we do it, and that's why we love doing it. I really do love doing this exercise for that reason, is because you're working off a hypothetical, and also brings up great discussion, doesn't it? It gets people interested in this game again, talking about different aspects that you can have an opinion on, and different aspects as well. Stuart's very clear. He's got demarcations across where he'll put Prem national sides. Isaac, you're like, you're 0-3. See ya. And so
Exactly.
that's the fun
That's the way it should be.
Well, my Wi-Fi cut out last time I tried to talk about the spreadsheets. I don't know whether you noticed that I changed the data sort this week. You said most people are filtering it on points. This is the first week that I've worked it off win percentage, games won, and then points scored. I think I did it on. So this is the first week that I've actually thought, okay, teams have got more data in the bank in terms of win percentage and actual wins. So I thought that's now a more accurate one, which potentially is why Bournemouth have figured in the highest spot they have in mind so far this season, because I'm now taking into the fact that, okay, they're probably going to end up in the playoffs. They might not if Bachelor Bees beat Bristol, but yeah, they're probably going to squeak in there somehow, and then it'll be playoff football. That's like everything wiped clean. Go again and see what you can do.
Yeah, let's have a look at the last of the top 25. I won't linger the point too much, but there's Bournemouth, who dropped 3 into 16. Portsmouth at 17, dropped by 1. Exeter held at 18. Leeds Beckett crept up 1. Hertfordshire went down by 1. Leeds by 5. We had new entrants from KCL and Stirling. Obviously, Stirling on the back of what we felt was a good win last week against Edinburgh. And then OBU at 1, up 1 to 24. And Kent dropped to 25 after their draw against KCL last week. So, I suppose I ask you every week: do you expect any new entrances this week?
Sunderland.
Well, we know what you think about Sunderland. Yeah,
I put my 1.
I think Manchester come back. They didn't. Just trying to work out. They beat. Oh wow! They beat Edge Hill in week 8. Is that even a thing? Yeah. So they beat Edge Hill this weekend. I know a lot of people will go, "Oh, it's only Edge Hill," but again, it moves them into playoff contention. Again, based on my sorting, they certainly crept into my top 25. Stirling, I think, drop out again. They obviously lost to Napier, and that moved Glasgow above Stirling based on their walkover win against Aberdeen. So yeah, do Glasgow and Stirling now switch places again? Glasgow having not played, do they earn the right to jump above? Hearts and Oxford, I think, stay in and sort of cement their place now in there, with them being the two strongest teams in that division. Again, I don't. Potentially the only new team, to answer your question, the new team is Manchester, but then the rest of them, I think, just flip flop between positions in that bottom 10 or 9.
I think you mentioned it in the results talk, potentially Bristol as well, right? With their positioning within that division, maybe. And they were certainly I think they were my 25th last week. So let's see if they appear on other people's ballots. Isaac?
For me, it's more who's going out. I think I've left Leeds out of mine this week, just because of the record as a whole and the fact that they haven't scored a point in the last 2 games. It's looking quite bleak for them. So I've dropped them out completely. I think Hertfordshire will get a nice bump. I think they've kind of shocked a lot of people because you came into the season thinking, it's going to be Birmingham and Oxford Brooks are going to be the 2 fighting there, and Hertfordshire is going to be that 3rd team and hope someone messes up. They should jump up above the likes of Portsmouth and Exeter, really. I think you'll see a lot of like KCL jump up. Oxford Brooks could jump up quite a lot after their massive win.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, hopefully we see some tier 2 sides and people haven't forgot about the greatest division in football. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with that, because I don't think that'll happen just yet. But hopefully, like last week, I'll be able to sneak 2 in there. But no,
and I think that's. Go on, sorry, Isaac. Go on.
I do think that Leeds, if they don't drop out this week, first week back after Christmas, they will, because then we'll see, has the brick helped them, or is it just the same old?
Yeah, I've got a real problem with having a OFA on my ballot, and I think that comes with a disclaimer that as soon as you get rid of that OFA, you slot in, but you probably slot in higher. You probably don't go in at 25 if you win at a Prem level or a Prem national level, a National League level. You probably go straight back in a little bit higher, in my mind. But it's just tough looking at this late on in the season, having 0 wins and still being in the top 25 is just tricky, isn't it?
I think it's the same for Leeds Beckett, though, isn't it? Leeds Beckett is still, they have the moments where they look okay, and holding UWE to 42 points is quite a good thing if you look on reflection of what their season's been so far. But still, I think that definitely, if they're not out of it after Christmas, then it'll be a shock to me, if I'm honest.
Coach Mike's asked, is this meant to be the best teams or just the ones you like? It depends who you're talking to, Coach. And there are no guidelines given. It is rank and submit. So creative freedom, I'm pretty sure, is given to it. But we do try and take it as seriously as we try and make it. So bar the odd one, maybe. Let's have a little look then towards this week, where we have an 8.5, as you're calling it, and you've also got a 8.5, 8.1, whatever you want to call it. It's definitely not week 9, but we have Sheffield Hallam versus Derby Braves and Hull Sharks versus YSJ, we think. Isaac, what do you think?
That Hull YSJ one's going to be interesting. Am I right in saying we've seen Hull so far? I honestly can't remember about this division. I've lost all.
It's been so long, hasn't it?
It's
Yes, 12.
If you said they tied, you've got a 2 in 3 chance.
Exactly. There's only been one winner so far. Hopefully we get a second winner this week. But I don't see how YSJ can turn it around so quickly. I don't think it'll be anywhere near as bad as 44-0. But I do think they'll still struggle against Hull. Coming down from Tier 1, both sides got new coaching, new head coaches and new coaching dynamics in the team. But I think that Hull will be set up in a way that they've already got that one, and they've looked quite positive in that one game away from home. So hopefully they can have the home game, and we can get another team with a win and can challenge. It makes that top between Sunderland, York, and Hull look interesting, because it's really hard to call between them 3 teams at the minute.
Yeah, 100%. And then presumably, because we haven't seen a lot of Sheffield Hallam this year, have we? Really, we've seen obviously a tanking of their cross city rivals, and then obviously a loss to who we're calling a really good side. They're sitting there 2-1, having only played 3 games. This is a must win for them, isn't it? Even though obviously Derby is struggling, this is something they've just got to keep getting right and putting in the win column, isn't it? If they want to have any chance of not only playoff football but a high seed in playoff football.
Yeah, it's exactly that. If they want to keep on the coattails of the Sabres, then yeah, they really need to get this win in the bank, move on to the Christmas break, and come back after Christmas, recharge, rejuvenated, and ready to really push the Sabres for that number 2 spot, because I'm not sure they're going to catch Green at the top of the table.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think Derby need to win as well. If they want to stay up, they've got to apply some pressure onto the northern onto that northern division, aren't they? And they've got to try and get a win here. But yeah, it's going to be hard to look past Hallam with the way that they dismantled Sheffield.
Yeah, 100%. So Stuart, before we get out of here, you've got an update on the last man standing.
Yeah, so I posted out Monday afternoon. Still 5 people in. There's a couple of people that used banker picks this week, which was good. It kept them in. A couple of people picked Fury as well over Kiel, so good choices on their behalf. There will be no last person standing vote this week. There's only 2 fixtures. We didn't do it in week 1 when there were 2 fixtures, so we will return in BUCS actual week 9. It won't be on the 18th of January. There's 1 fixture then, we believe. So it'll be on the week after, which is the 25th of January, 24th, 25th of January. That weekend is when we'll return. But we'll post in the run up to that anyway and let you guys know when we go back to live voting.
Awesome. And we'll be... they'll give you 5 more weeks of games to try and eliminate 4 other people.
We'll get playoffs as well if we need to.
Why didn't I just use my banker pick? Why did I have to? Why?
Still living rent-free in your head, isn't it? Still living rent-free in your head.
DMU are just in there constantly. It's all I think about all the time.
Careful, you become a meme soon.
100%. Brilliant. Anything else to get to before we get out of here? We've got Flag Football podcast coming early next week, I think. Roundup
I believe they're filming next week, yeah.
Yeah, rounding up the WFFL Game Day 4, which I know had a lot to do with qualifications for the playoffs and so on, so keep an eye out for that. Little bit of a bump towards our Champion Series. Head over to our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts, go and listen to them, where we talk to all the summer national champions. Have a little listen to the conversations there with Rushmore, London Blitz, Bristol Aztecs, Glasgow Hornets, and the Solent Thrashers women. So go ahead and give that a listen as well. Over the next couple of weeks, we obviously won't have that many games to talk about, so we will probably give ourselves a couple of weeks break over Christmas, but I think we'll be back next week. We've got a couple of topics that we want to get to, don't we? There's obviously been some hirings at GB. There is a rumour that went round last night that hopefully will be official, that we might be able to get to before the Christmas break, but we will see. But there's loads of things that we want to talk about. We'll also bring in our if the season ended today, and give you an update as to what we think the playoff would look like, totally unofficial, totally out of my brain, and you can pick me apart on where I've got it wrong, but we can kind of live in fantasy land and think about some of those matchups and maybe salivate a little bit at what promise they'll bring in a few months' time. So anything else to get to, guys? No. Brilliant. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for those who have got involved in the chat on Instagram and on YouTube. Simon, I'll be in your DMs trying to get that locked up before you go back to the well of Stuart and Isaac. Jokes. So we will thank you for those who've contributed. Thank you, Isaac and Stuart, as always. And we will catch you again next week to bring you more BUCS Breakdown. Take care.